All right, so we're reading Sri Sarada Devi and her divine play, and just enjoying God as Mother. We're on page 487. It's the chapter called Holy Mother as Guru. And last week, Mother was initiating a bunch of people in very free-form sort of ways. That actually ties in with what we were just talking about, because Mother also cut lots of corners, not cut corners, but wasn't a stickler for rules. We saw that one woman hadn't bathed and she had just finished eating, both of which are not things that you should do before you're initiated. You should not have eaten beforehand. You should have bathed and purified yourself. And Mother didn't care. She said, "No, come on in. I'm going to initiate you now." And so she did that. And there was a time when she was carrying rice to the shrine, and the pot slipped and broke, and the rice fell on the ground, and everybody was like, "What are we going to do now? We have nothing to offer Takor." And Mother says, "Look, he threw it on the ground. He's going to get it. He's going to eat it." So they scraped the stuff that actually had not touched the ground and put it on the offering plate, and took it and offered that to Takor. And so we're going to continue with that here, because there's a sentence where the devotee objected. She says, "Mother, I have eaten prasad already. I've already eaten something." And Mother says, she did not consider that a hindrance to initiation, and she imparted the mantra: "Truly, a guru's grace is unconditional." That's the phrase that I'm interested in right there. I'm not interested in the particulars of what happens. I'm interested in these principles, these guiding principles, that love is unconditioned from God, and that grace has covered us from God, and that the guru's grace, as the face of God, is unconditioned for us. And so we're on page 487. So I love to meditate on those beautiful, almost unbelievable. There's a little tiny hair of fear that kind of sticks up inside when you think, "Oh, I'm completely covered by grace and God's love is unconditioned." There's a part of the ego that's like, "You better be careful with that." Right? That's too good to be true, which is unfortunate, because I have found in my life that those times when I push against that and really open myself up to the idea that God is an unconditioned love, and that means an unconditioned grace for me, and that He's done the work, which Mother has said directly to us, even in this very book that we're reading. I find that as I open to that idea and depend on that it has inspired me to be a better person, that it has inspired me to let go of things that I'm less inclined to let go of when I attack them as a thing to get rid of, or a thing that needs to be fixed. And I really feel like we change not because we're trying to change, not because we're practicing being different, but we change because we become inspired by love as we discover it in the shrine of the heart. And that is the engine of our transformation. That is the engine that will help us to break out of the atmosphere in our rocket of spiritual life, as it were. That we'll break out of this gravity well of egoism. And the only way to do that, I think, is to use grace and love as our rocket fuel to do it. And that goes very closely in hand with the teaching of our sincerity and earnestness. And you can tell whether you're being sincere and earnest about being covered by grace, because if you're not being earnest and sincere, then the idea of grace and all the work already being done will manifest in you as a license to not be so serious, or to not worry or not care about those things. And if it's giving you license, sit with it a little bit more. Because if you really understood grace, and you really understood the gift of the divine to you, it would bring inspiration. It wouldn't bring license. It would be an inspiration that you would want to do more. You would want to give more. You would want to be better, just in your nature. It's like if you had a perfect partner, somebody who treated you perfectly. You had a husband or a wife who just never made a mistake. They loved you so sincerely. They were always encouraging, always hopeful, always trusting, always positive. And you knew they were that way. How would you be? You wouldn't be going to see what you could get away with when they weren't in the room, right? That's not how that works. You would be like, oh my God, I've got the most beautiful partner, and what is she doing with me, or what is he doing with me? I can't even imagine. And you would just be inspired to be the best you. That's what you would be inspired to be. And so, in this acceptance of grace and love that Mother Wright just now told us is unconditioned, absorb that. Wear that like a blanket when you go into the shrine. When you sit before the Lord, know that you're there by invitation. Like Cinderella, you've got your invitation to the ball. You're not an imposter, right? It's not that you're getting in because Mother hasn't noticed that you came into the room, right? No, she saw you come into the room and she put down a mat in the very front and said, "Hey, hey, 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 come up here, come here." And she'll hold your hand and sit there and chat with you for a minute, and you'll feel like you're the only person in the world, because that is unconditioned love. In 1919, Holy Mother was in Kolpara. Suresh Chaudhary, a young revolutionary, had just been released from police custody in Sundarban. This is the time of India's independence kind of beginning to happen. He came straight to the Mother for initiation that evening. Kolpara Ashrama was under surveillance at that time, and the police checked every evening to see if any revolutionaries were hiding there. Keshavananda told Suresh that he could not stay in the ashrama and would have to leave after bowing down to the Mother. Holy Mother heard everything. She said to Brahmachari Bharata, Bharata, this boy has walked all day from Vishnupur to see me. Could you arrange for his stay in someone's home or living room for one night? I will initiate him tomorrow morning and send him away. Bharata fed Suresh the leftovers from lunch and arranged for him to stay at the Chandi Mandap, an open hall that Nafar Kohli maintained for festivals. Holy Mother was very pleased. So you see her concern. She goes to the heart of the matter, not the rule of the matter, So she understood there was some danger because they were under surveillance. So she didn't invite him directly into the ashram, but in no way was she going to leave him on his own to go figure out what he was going to do. When she thought of it, she understood he's walked all day. He just got out of prison. Her compassion ruled her heart. And Vivekananda says that. He says, anytime you have an argument between your head and your heart, he said, go with your heart. That's the safer bet. Holy Mother was very pleased. Early the next morning, Mother and Bharata were going from Jagadamba Ashrama to Radhu's cottage. On the way, they saw Suresh waiting for them. Having finished his bath, Holy Mother asked Bharata to bring a little water from a pond nearby. Guessing that the Mother would need an asana in order to sit on that dusty path, Bharata asked, "Shall I bring you an asana?" Holy Mother replied, "No, you will not have to go all the way back to the house. Fetch 2 bundles of hay and we'll sit on them." Bharata watched from a distance as the Mother initiated Suresh on the path. Afterwards, she called to Bharata to bring some rock candy that she had offered to the Master. She ate a little herself and gave the prasad to Suresh. When he had finished, Holy Mother sent Suresh to Jairambati for lunch and asked him to return to his home after visiting Karmarpur in the afternoon. So again, Mother making do. No, you don't have to go get that asana for me. Let's just get a bundle. Let's grab some of that hay over there. Just sit down on some hay, right? I love that. I just love Mother's ability just to be in the moment and not to be persnickety and not to have demands, and to be able to be flexible, to take what is offered in the moment and to use it and to be content with it. I think that is the meaning of renunciation. Renunciation is not that you can't sleep in a bed, you can't have a nice house, you can't do this, that, or the other. Renunciation is that you take what is given to you, particularly as a monk. Vivekananda said that. He said, I've slept in the beds of kings and I've slept on the dirt with a rock for a pillow. And he said, I was content in my sleep either way. That's renunciation. Renunciation doesn't demand one thing or another. Once a young married woman took initiation from the mother and then returned to her husband's home. She practiced japa regularly there, but she had a doubt as to whether she was repeating the mantra properly. After 3 years, she had an opportunity to visit the mother and wanted to resolve her doubt. Listening to her problem, the mother said, well, my child, it happened a long time ago. Do I have the mantra in my mind still? Don't tell me anything. Please wait a little. Let me ask the master. Holy Mother went to the shrine and returned shortly. She said, yes, my child, I gave you this mantra. The woman admitted that was her mantra. The mother said, repeat it as you have been doing. There is no error in the mantra. This reminds me of something else. Like I said, I I came into Vedanta through the redneck door, and so I didn't know anything of Sanskrit and all that. And when I got my initiation, for my second initiation from Ranganathanandaji, I was after I'd gotten back to San Francisco and I'd been doing my practice for a couple of months, I also was hit with this doubt of like, I wonder if I'm even saying anything remotely close to what my mantra was, and I wondered. So one day at lunch, I said to Swami Prabhupada, I said, Maharaj, I said, can I repeat my mantra to you and you tell me whether I'm repeating it properly or not? And his answer was very, very interesting to me because he said, no, 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 it is not good to say your mantra to someone else. He said, where is this doubt coming from? What you're saying is fine. Have faith in it and go forward. Right? A very interesting answer, wasn't it? Just telling me why would you just have grown a doubt out of that for no reason? Just go forward. It's not the mantra. It's God. It's the beloved that you're with and who's taken responsibility for you and going forward. And so in all of our practices and all that we do, always bring it back to that. This is about the divine love. This is about the beloved, right? This is a relationship that I'm growing, a relationship that will end in a union, in a marriage, in a unity. The scripture says that desires preserve the body. Human beings have innumerable desires, and they force people to move forward. Most people are satisfied when they have fulfilled their worldly desires, and only a rare one among millions seeks God. Chandra Mohan Datta, a young man from Dhaka, came to Calcutta for a job. He heard about the Ramakrishna mission and came to the Udbodhan house, where he met Holy Mother. She listened to him describe his family background and appointed him to do marketing for her household. Sharadananda also engaged him to pack books in the publication department. The mother was very fond of him because of his simplicity, his honesty, and his guilelessness. He lived with the monks on the ground floor of the house. He was very fond of eating, and the mother loved to feed him. Whenever he came to her, he got something to eat. Sometimes we wonder, if God were to appear to us this moment and offer us a single boon, what would we ask for? Undoubtedly, most people would ask for money, considering that money can fulfill all their needs. Among millions, perhaps one would ask for liberation. Chandra Datta once faced this test, and he recalls, I think this is that story, it's funny. Once I was about to go for a bath in the Ganges from Udbodhan house. Swamis Shuddhananda and Pragyanananda were with me. Suddenly, Swami Shuddhananda said to me, Chandra, you have free access to Holy Mother, and she is very fond of you. Could you go to the mother and ask something that I tell you? Of course I can. Tell me what I have to ask her. Nothing much. It's a trivial thing. Just tell her, Mother, I want liberation. Oh, I shall tell her that right now. Immediately, I ran to the mother's room upstairs and found her worshiping the master. I had come to her room so many times before, but on that day, I was a little scared to see her performing worship. My body began to tremble. I was thinking I should leave the room, that I did not have the strength. My legs were shaking, and my throat became parched. My body began to perspire. Suddenly, the mother turned toward me and asked, "Do you want something?" My voice choked. Again, she asked with a sign, "Did you come here to say something?" Quite involuntarily, I blurted out one word, "Prasad." The mother pointed to the prasad kept on a plate under the bed. Then she resumed the worship. Shivering and perspiring profusely, I ran downstairs with the prasad and found that both swamis were waiting for me anxiously. Swami Shuddhananda asked, "Well, Chandra, could you ask for liberation? What did the mother say?" I told them what happened. I could not go to the Ganges that day, and it took many hours to calm down. You see what this is? This is the fact that, we can only get what our karma allows us to get. So even in that, when he went there with a very particular question already framed, told to him by two swamis expecting the answer, he still wasn't able to do it. There's another story where a young man sits on a little bench next to Holy Mother, and he tells the Holy Mother, "I'm going to sit here and not get up until I realize God." And Mother looks at him, smiles and chuckles and said, "Your very karma is going to throw you off that bench." It also makes me think, I've shared all these stories, of course, but once we went to visit a devotee's house, me and Swami Prabhutananda. The devotee wasn't feeling well, and so we had gone there to visit. And they set us in in a library to wait for the guests to come down. And we were sitting in there, and all the walls, all four walls, all the way around, all the way to the ceiling, and it was a high ceilinged room, were just bookshelves, just thousands and thousands of books. And I was sitting there looking at it all, and Swami was also kind of looking at them all. And I turned to Swami and I said, "My goodness, he has all of these books." And Swami says, "Yes." He says, "One may own all the books in the world, but he will only be able to read the ones that his karma allows." I thought that was a fascinating idea, and so how do we deal with that? Well, it's surrender, accept it, just go forward. This is your karma. This is the way the moment is. That's just the karma of body mind, though. Remember that the shrine is always free in you, and you just keep your mind there. Keep going. Just accept what the moment brings. Accept what karma allows, and sing the names of God. And that will weaken the karma because it will weaken your attachment to mind, where your karma is kept. On the 3rd of August, 1911, Sarada Jubala Sen recalled. Sarada Jubala Sen recalled. I never know when the names are finished. "This morning, I went early to Bug Bazaar. I had the desire to be initiated by Holy Mother today, so I took a few articles with me for that purpose. Gorima had given the list of articles, and she also accompanied me to the Mother's place. When I arrived there, I found her absorbed in worship. She asked me by signs to take a seat. After the worship was over, Gorima breached the subject of my initiation. I had also spoken about it to her on another day. I had brought some good bananas with me. She was very pleased to see the fruit and said, 'Ah, I see you've brought many bananas.' One of the monks expressed a desire for a banana. Then she added, 'Take a carpet and sit on my left.' I replied, 'I have not yet taken my bath in the Ganges.' The mother said, 'Ah, that doesn't matter. It is enough if you have changed your clothes.' I sat by her side. I felt my heart palpitating. The mother asked others to leave the room and then said to me, 'Now, tell me what mantra was revealed to you in your dream.' I said, 'Shall I utter those words or write them down?' 'You may tell them to me,' replied the mother. At the time of initiation, the mother explained to me the meaning of the mantra that I had received in my dream. She at first asked me to repeat that mantra and then communicated to me a new one. I was instructed to repeat the first mantra a few times every day, and then to repeat the second one and meditate. I saw the mother absorbed in meditation for a few minutes before she explained the meaning of the mantra to me. At that time of initiation, my whole body began to tremble. I began to weep, for which I could not find any cause. The mother put a big mark of red sandal paste on my forehead. I gave her a few rupees for the offering at the shrine. She handed over the money to Golap Ma. Yeah, it's a very special time, when you go and get your initiation and you formally make your declaration to your guru, and you surrender yourself, and or he takes responsibility for you to take you forward. That we all have the same guru. That's a very important point. That when people ask you who your guru is, I think it's best just to say Thakur, Ma, Swamiji, Jesus, Buddha, whoever your ideal is, to say that's who my guru is. Don't be attached to the face of your guru. There's a interesting in the Christian Bible in the early days, in one of Paul's letters, he wandered around from church to church around the Mediterranean there, teaching at each of the churches as he passed through. And he came to one church, and he tells them, he writes in his letter to them, he says, was among you, and I found you quarreling. Some people thinking that, they said, oh, I'm of Peter. And someone else said, oh, well, I'm of Paul. And someone else said, I'm of such and such. He said, what is this foolishness? He said, all of you are of Jesus. You are not of these men, these other names and things. You are all of Jesus. This is where you find your brotherhood. And, I find in Vedanta, we've also got that habit. People are always talking about who their guru is, and they're always very interested in who your particular guru was. And if you happen to have a good one, a popular one, you can see that, oh, wow, he got, Ranganatha, oh, wow, it's very nice. Oh, Moksha Prana, oh, that's very nice. And I always hear those words of Paul in my mind. It's like, oh, what foolishness. Do you not understand those people have no power at all without the Divine Mother? They have no power at all without the Divine Beloved. The Divine Beloved is your guru, right? And when you go to your guru, what is the teaching? See your guru as God, right? Don't go to your guru and see Swami such and such. Go to your guru and see the Divine Mother. Go to your guru and see the Divine Beloved, and talk to the Divine Beloved through your guru, right? Don't address your guru as a person. That's why we bow down and take the dust of their feet, not because of their body, not because of their accomplishment, but because of the ideal they represent. And what is the ideal that all swamis and nuns represent? It depends on what tradition you're in, but in this tradition, it's Thakur, Ma, Swamiji. So see it that way. Treat your guru that way, and know that there's none such thing as a good guru or a bad guru. Thakur says, even if your guru visits the tavern, the grog shop, treat them like God, see God in them, right? So it's not the quality of the guru that matters. Mother is speaking through that guru. It's your surrender to that guru and your obedience to their teachings and your faith in them. That is the important thing. That's what's going to help you transform. That's what's going to help you move beyond the limits. I noticed the mother was severely grave at the time of initiation. Then she left the seat of worship. She asked me to repeat the mantra for some time and to meditate and pray. I did as I was asked to do. As I bowed at her feet, she blessed me with these words: may you attain devotion to God. Even now, I remember those words and I pray to her, please remember your blessing. May I not be deprived of its result. Okay. To fall in love with God. Right? You must always remember love is the one most important thing. And that's when we approach God, when we approach friends, when we go to the temple, when we go to our guru, that love is always at the heart of all of our interactions. Why? Because that's what we're seeing in each other, right? When they tell you to see Thakur in someone's eyes or to see Mother in someone's eyes, what are they really saying? See pure love in that person's eyes. Address the Satchitananda within them, that impetus for pure love, so that you know where your inspiration comes from. You know what is at the root of your devotion, right? The mother and some young disciples. Spiritual advancement does not depend upon age. Sometimes young boys or girls are more spiritual than mature men and women. Holy Mother once commented that some people have practiced spiritual discipline in their previous lives, and they're born endowed with those experiences. One day at 12, talk about I guess I can tell that story. Anyway, don't take it in the wrong light. One time was reading the Gospel. This is when I first joined the monastery, and there were two things actually that happened. I think it was the same day. One of them, I was asking, I was like, Maharaj, I noticed we don't do any outreach at all as a Vedanta center. I said, there's nothing for that to we just don't do any outreach. I said, how are people going to find us? And I remember him looking at me for a moment, kind of quiet, and he smiled and he said, "You're here." You found us, you found your way. And I love that idea of leaving it all to the divine, and understanding that what we're doing here we are not doing anything. Mother's got her plan, she's got her ideas. We're just playing along. Right? We're just playing along. So that was one thing. The other thing he said to me, I was reading the gospel at the time, and I was kind of sharing some stuff out of it with him. And he asked me this really weird question. He said, have you found yourself in there? I said, what do you mean, Maharaj? He said, in the gospel, when you read it, have you found yourself? Are you in there somewhere? I was like, Maharaj, I totally I didn't understand at all what he was saying. I was like, Maharaj, what do you mean that I find myself in there? How could I wasn't even born. He says, no, in your last life, surely you must be in there somewhere. He said, there's no other explanation. He said, you know nothing of Vedanta. You'd never heard of Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. You don't know a single thing. You had no practice whatsoever. You were living a completely worldly life. And all of a sudden you knock on the front door of the monastery and say, here I am. I want to join the monastery. He said, that didn't happen now. He says, you said, look for yourself. You must be in there somewhere. And I'm sure, I did never took that literally, but I did undergo the practice of when I read, to kind of keep my eye open. Was there somebody in there that was like me? And I found a lot of them, but they were they were always the one being stung by a scorpion or but you see that intimacy. We've been a family for a very long time, all of us. We have wonderful feelings for each other, and I feel a certain attachment even for those that come to the class for the first time. And I really think that that's why. I think we have been on this boat together, bouncing around and bumping into each other here and there for thousands and thousands and thousands of births. We can't remember it all, but there has to be something behind it. There has to be some reason that I feel that way toward you, and that I feel that way from you also. And to approach our sangha like that, get a great head start. We don't have to start from scratch. We can just assume we're friends. We can assume that we've been on this trail for a long time, and our foibles and whatnots, we're familiar with them, and we've accepted them, and we've chosen for another life to run into each other again. One day, a 12-year-old boy came to Bodhan and began to cry out to the mother for initiation. Everyone considered this a childish whim and attached no importance to his emotional demand. The next day, Holy Mother's attendants saw the boy seated on the outer porch of the mother's house. He paid no attention to the boy and left for the market. When he returned, he noticed the boy walking away with a smiling face. The attendant learned from the boy that he'd been initiated, and he was going to buy fruit and sweets for Holy Mother. What an irony. The Moksha Prana had just finished the day, I think actually several days before, because the first picture she gave me had his picture in it. I could actually pick it out for you somewhere, but she had initiated this very young boy. I think he was like 5 or 6 years old. He's the youngest boy to ever been initiated. and by the Ramakrishna order. And it was just a few days before that. So it's kind of funny to read this, that Holy Mother is doing the same thing. This very young boy. It was kind of funny. What I was thinking about was that I know the story because he came in with his parents the day that I was there meeting Moksha Prana for the first time. And while I was sitting there in front of the desk, before all the bells and whistles had changed my life, he came up and he and his family presented her with a wonderful little picture of her and him, sitting right next to her with her arm around him. Uh, and she was very gracious and very happy. And she put it on her desk, right there in front of her. And they made their pranams and left. And then when I left, I don't know how long later, when I left, she said, she said, Vance, come. So I went over and she picked up that picture and gave it to me. I said, here, this is for you. And so I have that picture of that little boy still in my room here. But I learned something more from that day, because I thought it was very funny that she had done that. And I was trying to figure it out because I thought there wasn't a mean bone in her body. There was nothing but love in her eyes. And the thing I kept thinking was like, well, gosh, didn't she appreciate that picture at all? Why would she just turn around and give it away like that? I wonder if he's got bad karma or something like that. And it took me a while of thinking before I understood it. I was like, no, she's a monk. And that's what monks do. We don't collect things that people give to us. We become a repository. We hold on to them for a while and then we put them back out there as they're needed or as the opportunity arises. And I thought, what a great teaching that was, in an odd way, but in a very simple way. And it became one of my ideals, that because monks were given stuff all the time. And if we were to collect it all and hold on to it all, well, some people do. Actually, some monks do. I've had to clean up after them after they left their body. Some of them held on to everything. But the ideal, is to not. It's like to keep things moving. Don't collect things. Have that thing, use it or hold on to it. But when the opportunity comes or the need comes, let it go. Give it away. I knew somebody one time who had this idea. If anybody ever complimented something they were wearing, it's like, oh, I like your shirt. Immediately they would give them the shirt. Just not even a breath. They would just give it to them. And I think that's a delightful ideal. Just it always is keeping your dispassion alive, keeping your renunciation alive. It's a great way just to keep things moving, keep things going, keep the water moving so it doesn't stagnate. When he returned, he noticed that the boy was walking away with a smiling face. The attendant learned from the boy that he'd been initiated and was going to buy fruit and sweets for the Holy Mother. While the attendant was at the market, Holy Mother asked Radhu to bring the boy to her. Then the mother initiated him. The attendant went to Holy Mother and objected. Mother, how strange that you're initiating such a young boy. What does he understand? Holy Mother replied, well, my son, he is a guileless boy. Yesterday he held my feet and cried for initiation. Tell me, how many people weep for God? How many have such a strong spiritual inclination? In 1912, when the mother returned to Calcutta from a pilgrimage, a young devotee of Kalpara Ashrama named Bharada asked for initiation. Bharada was then only 13 years old at the time. Golap Ma heard of this and objected in her usual loud voice. This little boy will forget the mantra within a couple of days. And now he wants initiation? Kedar, Keshavananda, sent the boy for initiation. He has no sense. She told Bharada, look, mother belongs to your part of the country. When she goes there, ask for initiation from her after more deliberation. When Golap Ma left, Holy Mother remarked, see how Golap talks. Does she forget that one learns well in boyhood? Let him start now and do as much as he can. Later I shall give him more guidance. On the day of Janmashtami, Holy Mother initiated Bharada and taught him how to repeat the mantra. She said, very well, you will definitely remember the mantra. In the future, I shall show you everything over again, if necessary. She then blessed Bharata by touching his head and his chest and prayed to the master, please look after him in this life and the next. She got up from her asana and gave him 2 sweets as prasad. When Bharata hesitated to eat in front of her, she said, my son, don't be shy. One should partake of prasad after initiation. What a beautiful heart, you know. This is a great lesson to a great example of something we could practice very easily. You know, that after we see somebody, we're saying goodbye to somebody, when a friend leaves, or just anybody that you say goodbye to, most of us just say goodbye and that's it. But what a wonderful thing she does, that she says goodbye, you know, sends him on his way, and then does a little prayer, please, Master, look after him in this life and the next. What a way to open our heart. You know, what a way to really increase our love and feeling for one another. That anytime we say goodbye, if we just follow that with a lovely little prayer, you know. I went through that practice a little bit. I think I shared that way back before I had actually moved into the monastery. I'd taken that bus to work in the morning. You know, one time I thought, instead of just sitting there thinking all these worldly things about my work and whatnot, I decided that I would like pick people out on the bus and just kind of send a prayer, you know, to them. Just something, you know, God, give them a great day today. You know, fix whatever's hurting in their heart or whatever. Just to keep a general, like Brother Lawrence, you know, he said he always maintained a generally fond feeling for the presence of the Lord. And what a way to have that happen. You know, just as you see people during the day when when you're not doing anything else, you're just in the grocery store or you're, you know, doing whatever you're doing, just send out a little blessing for them. Just think of some cool way of blessing them. Please look after him in this life and the next. She got up from her asana and gave him 2 sweets as prasad. When Bharata hesitated to eat in front of her, she said, my son, don't be shy. One should partake of prasad after initiation. Swami Parameshwarananda wrote about the mother sometimes initiated people on her own initiative. One day she asked a young boy, do you want initiation? I don't know what that is, replied the boy. Have initiation, the mother said to him. The boy again said, I don't have any money. You will not have to pay anything, said the mother. She asked her attendant to give a myrobalan, a small fruit, to the boy, which he offered to her at the time of initiation. Another time, some boys came from Chapadanga and begged for initiation from the mother, and she immediately agreed. They bathed in the Punya Pukur, and the mother initiated them all. Very gracious, very gracious. You know, she saw something in them, I assume. I don't even know if she needed that reason. I think her heart was just wanting everybody to come home, you know, everybody to come home. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the life of a young Hindu widow was quite painful. She could not marry again, and she spent her life as a burden on her husband's or father's family. Social rules and customs of the time restricted her activities and forced her to lead a life like a nun. Some widows dedicated their lives to spiritual pursuits and social services. One such young widow came to the mother. She left the following reminiscence. After initiation, Holy Mother said to me, look here, my daughter. I do not usually initiate a young woman who has just lost her husband, but I've made an exception in your case, as you have a spiritual temperament. See that I do not have to repent of it. The guru suffers from the sin committed by the disciple. Always repeat the mantra of your chosen deity like the ever-moving hand of a clock. Once, when I was going to my father-in-law's house, the mother gave me the following advice. Don't be familiar with anybody. Don't take much part in the social functions of the family. Say, oh mind, always keep to yourself. Don't be inquisitive about others. When you go back home, please prepare coconut balls and offer them to the master. He was fond of coconut balls. Gradually increase the period of japa and meditation and read the teachings of the master. Another day I was alone with the mother and she said to me, look, my child, never be intimate with any man, not even your own father or your own brother, and what to speak of other men. Let me again repeat, don't be intimate with a man, even if God comes to you in that form. Now that's refreshing, right? There you go, ladies. For the, one of the few times when the Thakur is not telling us all about woman, woman and greed. Now you've got man and greed. So the mother forbade me to frequent the monastery and other places where monks lived. She would say, "You may have no bad intention in your mind. You might be visiting them with deep devotion. But if your presence brings any impure ideas to their minds, then you will also be partly responsible for it." Now, that's an important thing right there. It wasn't just a one-way thing. She wasn't just concerned about this young girl's mind and her own purity. She was asking her not to do those things for the welfare of the others, right? So that shows that we do have a responsibility for each other, to cover each other's faults and to be aware of them and make sure that we don't provoke them. Actually, I remember Swami Prabhupada doing that one time. I had left the car unlocked in the driveway, and Swami Prabhupada scolded me. And I thought he was scolding me, that's because that somebody that we would lose, that we might have something stolen out of the car. And I said something to that accord. And he said, no, it's not like that. He said, there may be somebody who wouldn't have robbed us had that door not been unlocked. And they walk by and their mind sees the door unlocked and they're tempted. And then they fall to their temptation. And we are the cause of it because we didn't lock that door. And I was like, oh, wow, God, I never thought of it in that way. That was interesting. And so here to see Mother talking this way, very same way, just wonderful. She also forbade me from going on pilgrimages without choosing carefully the time and company. She told me, whenever you have some money in hand, feed some holy men. Pointing to a woman devotee who was present, she said, look at her. She has learned a great lesson while visiting a holy place. The mother then quoted from a song, pilgrimages and excursions are causes of misery. Oh, my mind, don't be restless for them. You can attain more in your house if you are really earnest. There's a wonderful teaching right there. One day, some women devotees were criticizing a particular person. At that time, the mother said to me, do not lose your respect for her. It was she who first brought you here. Once I asked the mother's permission to adopt a child. In reply, the mother pointed out her own difficulties with Radhu. She said, oh, never take such a step. Always do your duty to others, but love you must give to God alone. Worldly love always brings in its wake untold misery. Learning that I had received initiation from Holy Mother, our family guru cursed me. I informed the mother about this through a letter. She wrote back, even the curse of Brahma can do no harm to one who has taken refuge in the Master. Be free from all fear. All right, we'll stop there for today.